What's going on, everyone? My name's Eric, and today on the channel we're going to be taking a look at this guitar here. This is a brand new Ibanez Prestige RGR 652 AHBF. That's a total mouthful to say and to read off, but it's pretty well on brand for every Ibanez guitar model name at this point. Anyways, with all that being said, this is a really cool guitar. We got a reverse inline 6 headstock here, this open pore top here. This is kind of like a straight up metal machine, locking tuners. It's pretty sick, it looks pretty awesome. And while this is a brand new guitar, as in it was bought maybe a couple weeks ago, the guitar is in for a few things. We're gonna do a setup on this guitar, we're gonna change the pickup, and we're gonna do a little bit of modification to the electronics right here. So with all that being said, let's jump into modding this guitar and let's see if the Ibanez Prestige series still holds up in 2024. Something else we're going to do with this guitar is actually disconnect the tone pot from the entire circuit. It's really easy on these Ibanez guitars. So we have this wire here which connects the tone pot into the rest of the circuit. So what we're going to do is simply cut a few wires. We're going to just go ahead and cut this from there. You don't need the ground. We're going to cut that as well. Might be hard to see here, but we also have to cut this wire that's going to the center tab of the tone pot here. Very easy. And then we are done with that. What you're going to have to do next, since the tone knob is not in the circuit anymore, you're essentially going to have to take this bridge ground wire here and you're going to have to reconnect it to one of the ground points on the volume pot over there. Real simple and real easy to do if this is your first time soldering and doing a tone knob mod on your guitar. I have a few videos that go over soldering on my channel and a few things to watch out for if this is going to be your first time soldering with electronics on your guitar. So as you can see here, we've run into a little bit of an issue here. The Seymour Duncan Jupiter is a little bit too big and the pickup cavities aren't routed big enough for this. What we're gonna have to do is actually file the sides here on the pickup cavity here, just so the actual pickup can sit inside the cavity with ease and actually be adjusted up and down to the owner's content. As you can see here, the base plate of the Seymour Duncan Jupiter is round, and this guitar is routed for pickups that have a square base plate on here. So just a quick little bit of routing, you can do that with any sort of file like you're going to see on screen here, or if you have a little bit of a Dremel or a router, you could do something like that. Although if you are working with power tools, make sure you go super slow because you can then take off more than you essentially want to, and you don't want to risk doing that and having cosmetic defects on the guitar. So I'm going to go and do this off screen, and then we're going to get that Seymour Duncan Jupiter installed. Here we have the Ibanez RGR Prestige guitar all finished up here. We got the action dialed in here, it's intonated. We got the brand new pickups, Seymour Duncan Jupiter in the bridge, DiMarzio Titan in the neck. Now if you want to change up the aesthetics or just change the pickups on this guitar to something a little bit more streamlined and sleek like we have here, you might have to route out some of the pickup cavities to accommodate for some of the different pickups that you might have to install in your guitar. I had to do that for the Jupiter because it's a different brand and has a different base plate and a different design in general. But otherwise, if you are going to replace the stock pickups with just regular DiMarzio pickups, you're then going to be just fine because this guitar came stock with DiMarzio pickups from the factory. Otherwise, we then went and did the tone knob delete. We moved the volume knob back. Now, if you do a mod like this, you're going to be left with the original volume pot hole where the volume pot was from factory. Now, this one is measured out to 3/8 of an inch, and what we're going to do is actually going to plug that hole with just a regular wood plug just from Home Depot or something. So if you're in this position and you want to plug up the guitar, you just need to get a wood plug. Just measure the size of the hole that the volume pot is routed for, and then just find that matching size of wood plug and throw that in the guitar. You might have to paint them, so keep that in mind. Given this guitar has a black finish on it, it's going to be pretty easy to color match and kind of hide that hole. Otherwise, if your guitar has a different color, you might run into a little bit of problems just trying to paint match and everything like that. So keep that in mind if you are going to do the tone knob delete and move the volume knob back and everything. Otherwise, that is kind of it with this guitar. It's a pretty sweet guitar, just as pretty well all Ibanez Prestige model guitars are. The fret edges are really good, the overall build construction is really good. Honestly, this guitar just kind of stays out of your way. It's pretty sweet. I've had a good amount of time recording with it and just kind of jamming and playing on this thing, and it just feels really nice. It's built well. I haven't had any sort of like quality control issues and anything like that, and yeah, there's not really lots of negative to write home about this guitar. So with all that being said, let's get into a few specs on this Ibanez RGR Prestige. First things first, we have an ash body here with this beautiful white binding that goes all the way around the guitar here. This particular cut of ash is actually pretty heavy, and I've had a few ash guitars in the past that are either super light or super heavy, and this is on the heavier side of it, so bear that in mind if you are going to be buying this guitar. The wood density and the weight of ash differs from cut to cut, so make sure you are playing the guitars in person before you are buying them. Now, if you were going to buy this guitar brand new, you were going to have the DiMarzio Fusion Edge pickups on this guitar here. There's not a lot of information about those pickups. I did a little bit of a deep dive. A lot of people said they were modeled after the DiMarzio Titan, kind of like what we have in the neck here, although I'm not 100% sure and I can't confirm. Now, even though there is not a lot of information on those pickups sounded great, and the only reason we actually replaced them for the current pickups that you see in this guitar here is because the owner wanted to change the aesthetic and have it look a little bit more sleeked out. Now, if you are going to be buying this guitar brand new, you don't have to swap the pickups. They're not bad pickups or anything just because they are not one of DiMarzio's like household names and anything like that. They're great sounding pickups. They're super articulate. They're very clean, and they're really great for a lot of different styles. Sure, Ibanez is considering all of those factors when they are designing pickups for their guitars, just so they are good for so many different genres outside of just the metal realm. Now, staying down here on the body, we have this Ibanez branded bridge here. This is a pretty comfy bridge. It feels really good. It adjusts well and everything like that. My only negative point about the bridge that I can think of right now is actually the way you adjust the intonation on the guitar. This uses Allen wrench screws here, and thankfully Ibanez gives you a multi-tool to actually adjust everything on the guitar from factory, which is really nice and kind of solves that issue. But in my opinion, I think it would have been better if they used just a regular Phillips head screwdriver end on it, or like a regular screw like on other bridges. I personally think that's easier to live with and easier to use, and especially it's not going to wear out over time, whereas an Allen wrench will kind of wear out over time, especially if you are putting the wrong Allen wrench size into the adjustment point here to adjust the intonation. That's a minor detail, but thankfully Ibanez does give you a multi-tool to adjust every point on this guitar. Going down here, we then have a barrel jack on the guitar. I mean, I'm not a big fan of barrel jacks. I know they generally wear out quicker than just a standard guitar input jack and everything like that. So that's my one kind of gripe with the guitar. I mean, especially at the price point that it comes in at. This is a really inexpensive part, and it's easy to throw a new one in, but it's really unfortunate when they go, especially after the guitar is brand new and maybe you don't have a lot of play time on it. This guitar's input jack is lasting and there's no issues with it at all. Although I have played brand new guitars and guitars with very low play time on them, and the barrel jacks have actually just worn out entirely. So in my opinion, that is just an easy fix, and it's something easy to get around by just using a different style of input jack. Keeping in that theme with buying this guitar brand new, we had one volume and one tone. We then now just have the one volume 5-way Ibanez switch here. All your coil splitting is done through that. Bolt-on neck here. We got that upper access cutaway here. Fantastic design. We got the 5-piece wizard neck. The neck's really thin. I mean, if you're used to the Ibanez wizard neck, then you're gonna be kind of comfortable with this one. I'm not so used to the Ibanez wizard neck, so I do find my hand kind of cramping up just a little. The neck is pretty tiny compared to what I'm used to. I'm really used to the Jackson Charvel, like really flat kind of neck and kind of wider necks as well. So this one is a bit of an adjustment too. It is comfy, but I did have to spend a little bit of time just for my own personal preferences just to really get used to this guitar. Goto locking tuners, they just work. They're really great products as well. Anything that Goto makes is fantastic. Ebony fingerboard on this guitar as well. We got the dot inlays, 25.5-inch scale with 24 nickel frets, which is actually a very interesting design choice in my opinion. And as you'd expect with any sort of Ibanez Prestige guitar, we do have the Prestige fret edge treatment here. Even though this guitar does have neck binding, and usually neck binding is a bit of a caveat to say we didn't do our fret jobs properly from the factory. It's a good way to kind of hide that. This guitar has fantastic fret edges, as you'd expect from an Ibanez Prestige guitar. And rounding out the entire guitar here, we have the reverse Ibanez headstock. I'm a sucker for these reverse Ibanez headstock, especially when they are in extended range format, like in 7 and 8 string guitars. And that's gonna do it for all the specs and the features on this Ibanez RGR 6-string Prestige guitar. As you'd expect from any sort of Prestige Ibanez guitar, this pretty well checks every box. It sets up so well, very easy to use. It sounds amazing when it's plugged in, as you're gonna hear in just a second here. Acoustically, it resonates very, very well. There's no dead frets or anything. The fretwork is very, very great as well. And honestly, nothing really negative to write home about on this guitar. And even though I do give a lot of gleaming reviews for the guitars that are on the channel here, and honestly, this one follows suit as well. I wouldn't be bringing on guitars that are not up to snuff or not up to par. And I even wouldn't be spending my own money on guitars that are not up to my own standards of what I'm looking for in a particular guitar or a bass. So keep that in mind. I'm pretty fair with these guitars. If something's gonna stand out, I will let you all know, obviously, but otherwise, It checks out, feels great, nothing was really out of the ordinary, especially for a brand new guitar. But with all that being said, let's plug this thing in and let's hear how this Ibanez Prestige RGR sounds, and then I'm going to give you my final thoughts and opinions. Now that was the Ibanez RGR Prestige guitar with a few isolated guitar tones. Now I'm going to give you my final thoughts and opinions. First and foremost, the guitar feels really great and sounds fantastic. Once again, I will say that you don't have to change the pickups in order to make this guitar come to life or make it sound better. When I first got this guitar, I plugged it in and got to know this thing and see what it was all about. The guitar sounded amazing with the stock pickups. The only reason that the owner of the guitar wanted to change the pickups is because he honestly just wanted the aesthetic to look a little bit more sleek like this. And not to mention the Seymour Duncan Jupiter is actually just one of the best bridge pickups that you can go and buy right now. So when you're changing your pickups, you kind of got to go for the best stuff if you're going to be changing your pickups. All that being said, then the guitar feels really good. The upper fret axis is fantastic. The fret edges are fantastic. There's no dead frets. I really wish there were some stainless steel frets, especially when you compare this guitar to other guitars in the price range. This one comes in at $1,500. And when you're in that $1,500 range, and especially with other brands like Schecter, LTD, and Balaguer, for example, a lot of those guitars are coming with stainless steel frets, and for some reason, I just don't know why Ibanez hasn't moved to that. I know stainless steel frets are a little bit harder to work with from a manufacturing standpoint. They're a little bit harder on the tools, although they are never going to wear out. But then again, if you are just playing this in your home studio and you're not touring with this guitar like crazy or anything like that, you're probably going to be fine with these frets, although some people might say it is a deal breaker that this guitar does not have stainless steel frets. Although, as I just said, this guitar comes in at $1,500, and a lot of the other guitars that I mentioned, they are made in like Korea, Indonesia, for example, whereas this guitar is like straight up made in Japan. And if I'm being honest, like this guitar, I would probably go for this one over some of those other brands that I mentioned, because that Japanese quality and that Japanese craftsmanship is just such a high standard. And honestly, like Ibanez has really made their brand known for that Japanese quality and that Japanese craftsmanship. And even a lot of those other sub-brands like from Japan, like Edwards or FGN, all those Japanese brands are absolutely just killer. So in my opinion, if you are in the $1,500 budget and you want a really awesome 6-string guitar that is geared for metal, and you don't really have to do much to it from the factory besides maybe just give it a setup to your own personal taste, I think this is a fantastic option. You get a couple tools to get this thing going. You get a really great hard shell case with it that is actually fully molded to this thing. In terms of quality control and fit and finish, this guitar checks out. It really seems like Ibanez is really doing their job to make sure these guitars leave the factory and they get into owners' hands, they get into music stores not needing a single thing but maybe your own setup to get it to where you like your guitars playing. And I don't think there's much more we could want at the end of the day, especially because this guitar is priced so well for the build quality and everything that you do get with this guitar. And with all that being said, thanks for checking out today's video. If you like this guitar and you want to learn more about it, I'm going to have an affiliate link down below where you can check it out in a little bit more detail and actually buy it if you so choose to. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, and if you learned something new in this video, and if you like different parts of this video, let me know in the comments below as well, because I love engaging with you and building that community that we have here. And if you like this video, consider subscribing. I have tons more videos that go over gear reviews and gear demos and everything like that, as well as modding your guitar, and learn a few different tips and tricks along the way to actually setting up and maintaining your guitar. If you really like what I do, hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single video that I upload. Thanks for checking this out, and I will see you next time.